Welcome to Surviving the Pin with your hosts, author M.Swain, author Pablo Agrio, author Harmon.
I can't hear.
Can't hear you. Can't hear him. Tell him you can't hear him.
I hear you. I don't hear him. Can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. My name is L.C. Harmon, a.k.a. You can't hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear Pablo?
He can't hear.
Yes, he can't hear me.
So this is...
Okay, so he'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah, excuse me, everyone. Sorry about that brief interruption. But again, tonight's segment is called Surviving the Pen. We'll be coming on every Wednesday at 5 o'clock for... We'll be coming on every Wednesday at 5 o'clock for further discussions. Tonight's segment will be Surviving the Pen.
That's 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock
Yes.
East Coast time.
Yes, 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock East Coast time.
7 o'clock Central.
My way out. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce other two co-authors.
He keep going in and out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the brother Latif's computer and mic, but the name of the show is Surviving the Pen. I'm M.Swain, the author. I'm the author of a book. My first book is called Prison Kingpin. It's available right now on Amazon. You want to put in Prison Kingpin Volume 1. It comes up to the top of the search engine. It's a great book, but you know we're not here for the book right now. So eventually, I guess we'll get into that. So I'm ad-libbing for my brother because I don't know what's going on with his laptop or computer, whatever he's dealing with. But so what I'll do is I know some of the direction of the show. So until they figure it out, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about myself. Well, I started getting in trouble at the age of 8 years old back in the 80s. And early 80s, that is. I was born in 1974. So I think my first adjudication was around the age of 9 or 10 years old. From the first time I was adjudicated as a juvenile, I got in trouble so much that by the time I was 11, I was in the care of the Florida juvenile justice system. And that led me to different crimes, rather. I started off I used to go in stores and I used to steal. I used to steal candy, I used to steal toys, I used to steal food. Or little things that I wanted out of stores, though. I didn't break in people's houses. I didn't do that type of stuff. And then along came cocaine. Crack cocaine was in a place in Florida named Dundee, Florida. My mother moved from Dundee to Haines City. So Haines City is where I spent most of my life. So you'll hear me, sometime claim Haines City, but I don't never forget Dundee because, that was my beginning. So I started getting in trouble, like I said, at a very young age. I started selling cocaine while in the care of the system, of the juvenile system. And I say that because by the time you get to the end of my story, that's going to be very important. Because the village that I came from, Dundee, Florida, that village, they knew my granny, they knew my mother, they knew my aunts, they knew my aunts, my great aunts, my great great aunt. They knew everybody that was my family. So therefore, that village would never disrespect none of those elders that I just named out. So that village would have never introduced me to selling crack cocaine. I'm not going to say ever, but not at the age of 11. So what happened to me was while I was in the system, I was in the care of a foster home and in the care of Florida system, juvenile system, I was introduced to selling crack cocaine. So while that led me to, a few juvenile, what we call gladiator places, that also led me to prison at the age of 16 years old. From the age of 16 until last year, July the 27th, I've been in and out of prison. That's 4 times I've been in prison for 4 different charges. All those was drug-related charges. I didn't sell drugs to get high. I didn't sell drugs for popularity. I sold drugs to make money. And that's a little bit about myself. So, we got a whole hour together, so I'm going to pass the mic to my brother Pablo. I don't see Latif on the screen. Hopefully he figured it out. So, Pablo, take the mic, introduce yourself, do your thing.
Well, thanks, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you perfect.
Yeah, same here. I cannot see Latif. I hope he finds his way back on. I'm sorry to say that I was having a little problems too with the sound, so I only caught the tail end of your introduction. But like you said, we have about an hour to kick it with each other. So I hope that as the program develops, I learn more about you, my brother, and about your story. And I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say. And I was telling Brother Latif that I have to make a better effort to try to get your book and read it so that I know what your story is, and I can support you as best I can.
Yeah, we got to support each other though.
Yeah, and so
I got to get y'all books too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, having said that, So my name is Pablo Agrio, and I'm originally from Panama, and I came to this country, trying to find a better life and running away from the situation that was critical at the time in my native country, with the politics and what have you. And, I took a different path than the one that I heard you describe. I mean, basically, I did everything that I was supposed to do, I think. I finished high school. I found myself in a little bit of a tough spot when I made the transition from coming from Panama here to America. And then, after a little bit of a storm, so to speak, I found myself joining the Marine Corps. And I thought that I was good to go. I mean, I felt like I checked off all the boxes and that, my life was heading in the right direction. And, as it turned out, not so fast. I left the military to turn to law enforcement as a new career, and again, one of those boxes that you check off when you say, well, based on what your past behavior and conduct and choices are, no one had any reason to believe that I was going to end up in the penitentiary. And but so such is life and such is fate that before I knew it, I found myself being arrested, charged, and convicted of murder, which resulted in my spending darn near half my life in prison, man. And the most unbelievable turn of events in a story that uh, you know no one had any reason to believe was going to end up like that. So I bring a little different perspective about the things that we all have in common, but it's the same pain, the same misery, the same suffering, and so yeah, I hope to learn as much from you guys and hopefully share some of the things that I've been through, and extract from that the common denominators. So that's a brief introduction who I am. The book that I wrote, In Pursuit of Happiness, is basically a memoir that takes me from the time I came here to what happened to me, how I ended up in prison, and some of the changes that I underwent as I started to mature and gain a little bit of wisdom. So I look forward to sharing a little bit more about that as we get to know each other and spend more time with each other. Brother Latif?
Yes. What was that? The introduction? I'm sorry because
Yes, sir.
I was.
Yes, sir. We
Yeah,
were
we
we
just
were
filled
just
in,
doing
just
the
ad lib
introduction.
for you. We knew
Oh,
you'll figure it out. So we
okay.
just
Okay.
gave an introduction of who we were and
Okay.
yada, yada.
All right. So we haven't went to the first one yet, then.
No.
No, sir. No, no. We
Okay.
were waiting for you, sir.
Okay, well, sorry about that interruption for all this out there. And again, my apologies. And please comment if you choose to, because we welcome the interaction. Um, but a brief introduction of myself. My name is L.C. Harmon. I currently serve 34 years, 3 months in the California penal system. Um, I've now been out for close to almost 5 years now. And my main purpose, or our main purpose tonight, is to educate and to heal the masses about surviving the pen. And our topic would be my way out. I was born in Paducah, Kentucky. Left there when I was a very young man, preteen. Moved to Flint, Michigan. Grew up in Flint, Michigan. Left Flint, Michigan, back and forth between Flint, Michigan and Detroit. Left there, came to California. Came to California with my girlfriend. Uh, End up, she's pregnant. Catch a case in California. Go to the penitentiary, and which was a very life changing event. So without further ado, because we got very little time left, so I'm gonna get on into these questions. Our first topic tonight would be what did you believe was your way out of poverty? So I'm gonna turn that over to Mike first and give me your understanding as what did you believe that your way out of poverty was?
Well, for me, man, as I was telling the viewers and people listening, uh, I have an uncle, and I'm gonna say his nickname. His nickname was Mudfoot, and my uncle got in trouble as a youth as well. Was very, very skilled in basketball. But he was the only male. Like now, don't I'm not discrediting my father, so don't take that. Don't take this as that. But my father and my mother wasn't together, so we know, how that goes. So the closest male influence to me growing up was my uncle. My uncle was a thug, right? So uh, early on, my uncle was a thief, right? So before cocaine came along, that's what I did. I would. There was times in our house, and my mother don't like me to say this, but I just speak the truth. Man, I come from where people can relate to. I don't try to put no glitz and glamour and shine on everything, because it took a process to get to all of that, right? So I started off stealing, going into stores, convenience stores, going into back at the time, it was Zayres and Kmart. It wasn't no Walmart. It was Zayres, Kmart, and stuff like that, and toys that I wanted that I couldn't have. I would go in the stores and steal them. And why? Why would I steal this stuff? Food. Why would I steal this stuff? Because we didn't have it. Right?
Yeah.
So then came along crack cocaine. So crack cocaine was immediate pressure relief of my poverty-stricken beginning. You know, my mother had me when she was 18. So she was trying to figure out life. You know what I mean? I'm her first child. I'm my father's first child. She was trying to figure out life. So through that, you know, I started getting in a lot of trouble. And for years, man, the only way I saw out of it, despite the fact that I was good in sports, I was very fast running. I started dunking a regulation basketball goal at the age of 10. And these are things that if you see them today on television, they're wild. You know, a 10-year-old child I was about five, something like that, jumping high enough to dunk a basketball goal, and I couldn't grip the ball. I palmed it like this. I cuffed it. But the system decided to take me away from my parents, my mother and my granny, and put me into a foster home, a boys' home, then a foster home. In that foster home was where I was introduced to selling crack cocaine. Well, it's hard to turn back introducing thousands of dollars, having $1,000 in your pocket at 12 years old. It's hard to break that mold. I don't care what anybody says. If you put $1,000 in a 12-year-old child's hand and he had to get it on his own, that becomes a part of him. Mm-hmm. And that became a part of me. So selling drugs for me was my relief from poverty. Like millions of other people in the communities that we come from. So, you know, that was the pressure reliefs for me.
Okay. I you know, I understand that, you know, and I definitely can relate to that because, you know, a lot of us, you know, growing up, especially if you anywhere between in your late 40s, 50s, 60s and things like that, most of us grew up, especially me, growing up with hustlers being my heroes. That's all I knew was in the street, selling drugs, stealing, all the things that comes along, you know, in their street life. That's all I knew. So I resorted to get out of poverty. I did what I knew. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of us we grew up in single parent homes, right? Where mother had, you know, she probably have, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 children, struggling, don't have enough money to make ends meet. So a lot of us didn't have no choice but to see certain things when we talking about poverty-stricken households. You know, we all can relate to, scuffle week, where at the beginning of the month, when you get to welfare checks, if the food is good, when that third week of the month, everybody eating sugar sandwiches and ketchup sandwiches and all of that. So as time go on, you learn to adapt to your environment and you figure out ways how to get money.
Amen.
So for me, I grew up with all girls and I was the only boy. So I had to, come up fighting and squabbling, protecting my family. And for me, even as a young boy, I used to watch my mother when we would go to get school clothes and things like that. I really couldn't understand, but to see her spend all her money just to buy my sister's things, and I would feel like, well, Mama, you don't have to buy me nothing because I didn't want her to spend all her money and don't have anything left. As a young male child, this is how I was thinking then. I was already trying to figure out how to get something on my own because when I was outside of her household, that's all I saw. Dudes coming home from prison, right? Everyone is celebrating, their being gone, right? But no one really explains why they gone. You just know this celebration is going on. So which makes you be intrigued to do the very things they did to get what they want. And you see that growing up in the projects in the hood, because no matter where you are, down south, west coast, east coast, midwest, it's all the same, man. Poverty is the same, no matter what hood you come from, right? So you only going to do what you know, right? So for a young man like me growing up seeing that, as I grown into my teen years, and I left Kentucky, went to Flint, from Flint to Cali. When I came to Cali, you know, the first girlfriend from Flint, she came out here, I sent for, she's pregnant, have no educational skills legally to take care of myself, to provide for my family. Only thing I know is in the street and hustling. So that's what I resorted to, right? Um, and as time went on, that's what life was for me. And for the most part, like I said, for most people, that's what they know. Not all, that's what they know. And again, I want to make this very, very clear that because that's all I knew, because that's all I seen, how other people was getting money. Yes, there was people going to work, but at that time I wasn't paying no attention to no 9 to 5. I'm just looking at what was exciting to me, which was being in the street. But let me say this though, because that's what was going on, doesn't mean that one couldn't rise above, that environment to be doing those kind of things. Yes, other choices could have been made to go to school and all those things, but that's not what excited me. I wanted to do that. So I'm gonna pass it on to Pablo. Let me hear some of your understanding that, brother.
Thank you.
Excuse me. But before you do, those outside that's watching, please send some comments in so we can dialogue on that and get further on and deeper into the media. This is the first of its kind. So please engage. This is what we want. We want to engage.
And we see you, Latasha Gorman. Good day to you too.
Yes. Well said, my brother. Yes, we welcome the audience questions, commentaries. We would like to be able to address some of those questions. Might be answering those questions may take us in different directions and may make it even more interesting. But back to the question at hand. Yeah, it's interesting to me that it's the same. Some of the same things that you guys experienced, I experienced, even though I was growing up in a different country. I mean, the levels of poverty. As I was hearing both of you talk, I had a flashback of a memory that I had. When I was a little boy, one of the things that I hated the most was when my mom would give me a little piece of paper with some grocery items listed on it, and then I had to go to the to the store and give the list to the man. And what we were asking was for him to give us the food and credit. You know what I'm saying? So everybody in the store was paying for theirs except me. I'm standing at the back of the line waiting to see if he's going to give the green light and put the groceries in a bag and give it to me. So, you want to talk about poverty, there's a quintessential example of what that is, and how that started to shape the way I saw the world and how I wanted to live my life. And of course, like you guys mentioned, I'm also single parent home. Didn't have any relationship with my dad, so I basically had to learn.
Hello, Susan. How you doing?
Yeah, hello, Susan. I had to learn the hard way by trial and error. Some of you guys alluded to that. So, I was getting my education from older guys, peers. Whoever came around and had a crazy idea, that's what I would roll with. My mom kept a pretty tight leash on me, and she felt that education was the key to getting out of poverty. Even though I got to be honest with you, in the neighborhood that I was growing up in Panama, and throughout the time that I spent there, I never saw anybody leave that neighborhood and become middle class or rich. I never saw anybody win the lottery, and there were a few guys that made it big in boxing. That's what I remember, and a couple here and there that maybe did okay in baseball. But those were few and far in between. So there was no such thing as kind of like thinking that you could hit it big by being an athlete or anything like that. Most of us growing up thought that we were just going to end up graduating from high school and getting a job in the government sector, because 80% of the people in Panama probably make their money like that. um, Fate had played a hand in my life. To be honest with you, I hated being poor, and I really didn't have a plan on how to get out of poverty. I just figured that that was the hand that God dealt me, and I was going to grow up and follow in the footsteps of everybody else that I saw in that neighborhood. Uh, you know, get with some woman, get her pregnant, get married or not, have children, and just hustle, hustle, hustle. That was the name of the game. And lo and behold, right about the time that I was getting ready to graduate from high school, my mom was working behind the scenes to see if she could get me transferred to the States. And I cannot even begin to tell you what all that entailed and how the process worked out. But, you know, before I knew it, I got my high school diploma, and there I was sitting at the American Embassy trying to answer questions about getting a visa to come to the United States. And in many respects, it was an exciting time, but it was also a scary time. My English wasn't that good, if any at all, and coming to a foreign country, where everything was different, the culture, the language, and all of that, it presented some challenges. And lo and behold, when I got here, what I thought I was going to be doing, which is studying or furthering my education, it turned out to be anything but that. And that led to a lot of ups and downs, bumps in the roads, even a stint being homeless in New York. But through the hand of God and fate, man, I mean, somehow or another, I ended up joining the Marine Corps and turning the corner. And it's through that experience that I finally started to get the feeling that I could develop a plan that would take me out of poverty, and if not make me rich, at least take me into middle class. And I think that for the most part, I executed that plan well. But I was already marred and dealing with a lot of traumatic childhood issues and anger issues and all kinds of other psychological and emotional issues that were going to turn out to lead me to the path of destruction. So I don't know that I ever found out what the key to leaving poverty was, but I think that once I became a Marine, that you know, it somehow uh, kind of eased the stress and the pressure to try to figure out an easy way to make the jump, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, yes. I understand what you're saying. Yes, that was good. And so we're gonna go on to, because we're working for time, so we got a half hour left. So I'm gonna get on into the next question, which is, what actions did you take to make your way out? What actions did you take? What actions did any of us take to get our way out of prison? Now again, for me, it goes back to what I knew. So what I did, I started selling weed first, little small local, getting into the, drug game. So I started selling weed, and from weed to cough syrup, central photate, romatussin. Those in the Midwest, there they call it romatussin. Out in California, they had this syrup called central photate, and it sold just like heroin. As a matter of fact, it's liquid heroin. That's the effects that it had. So I started out doing that, selling weed, selling cough syrup, which was central photate. I was doing pretty good. Then that graduated on into cocaine, right? Into that, selling cocaine and on and on and on. And that was what I did. Those was the very, very steps I did, because that's what I knew. And you're only going to be able to do what you know. I'm gonna pass this to Mike, and I'm gonna come back and rebuttal this again.
Uh, That question I answered in the first question.
Okay.
I started selling cocaine. I started selling cocaine at the age of 11. Uh, and I sold cocaine from the age of 11 until the age of, I think the last time I might have had coke in my hand. I know I was definitely in prison, and I say it was 2012. So but then all these other synthetic drugs came around, the pharmaceuticals and all that stuff. So that was big in prison. It wasn't easier to get than cocaine, but that was became my bread and butter while I was incarcerated. So yeah, I sold drugs. I ain't no water nothing down. I sold drugs. So you pass it on to the brother. But
Can I ask a question real quick of both of you? How old were you guys when you first landed in the pen?
I was 16.
You were 16. How about you, Latif?
I was 24.
Yeah, see, like I was already bucking 30, so I can only imagine that must have been quite of a shock for both of you, especially for Mike being 16 years old. That's
Yeah.
that's gotta be a hard blow right there, trying to
It
adjust to
was
that life.
it was a
It was
major
for me, and I was almost 30. I know that.
it was a major shock factor that played along with that. Now all three of us been to prison, and I don't want to take away from what the script is, but all three of us being in prison, we come from, with me and Latif, we come from similar backgrounds, right? But
Hmm.
you brother, you went into the military, you did everything right up until your mistaken life, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
but even our experiences in prison, we all three had different experiences, but we all three can relate to everything that each other is saying. So, for me being put in prison at 16 years old, now it's time to grow up real fast. Real fast. So I stopped playing at probably 16 years old
Yeah.
because you couldn't do that in prison. The back then you had what they call booty bandits, and they preyed on young, little
Yeah.
light-skinned, pretty guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
back then, so I was put in prison to fight for my manhood before I was able to fight for the country that so-called
Yeah.
say, I'm one of y'all, one of them. I couldn't even vote, but I was in prison. How is that? So yeah, 16 for me, Pablo.
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me
I
let me add something to that, man. Not to cut you off, but it just crossed my mind about this question because I said I was going to come back to this here. Uh, when those of us that really sold dope, I'm one of them. Uh, when we started talking about the destruction, you know, um, what actions, the actions that I took uh, to get my way out. I realized that the actions that I took, the things that some of the people had to go through to get that, at that time, that was the furthest thing from my mind. you know. Um, but as I sit and I think and I ponder, about, this statement, although I had them ahead of time, I thought about them, but, this what makes this so good because as we begin to start talking about surviving the pen and my way out, we're going to go into deeper and deeper conversations. This is why, we implore the audience to ask us questions because we can start going into a whole lot of things that happens, when you take this route and you do that, right? And for me, I'm thinking about all the things that took place that people would do to get this, you know, uh, how we transform a whole lot of them to something that you can't even recognize anymore. And I'm saying that to say that, as I think about this particular question on this surface, I thought about something else. You know what I mean? But as we begin to talk more and more, I begin to start thinking about, the damage, that I did to get my way.
One person.
Yes.
The damage caused by one person.
Yes. Yes.
To thousands.
And thousands,
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't really get to this meat until we get to where we are, and then we begin to grow. But that's in another question, so I don't want to go off script. But I want to make sure that I made that statement because it just crossed my heart. Because this is real for me.
Yeah.
What we're talking about right now is truly, truly real for me. And I want to make this statement very clear. In the beginning, when this first thing happened, everything that we're talking about, I was a boy then.
Yeah.
Then I was a boy in every sense of the word, mentally and physically. But this experience right here, trust me, you're gonna be a man after this here. So I'm gonna go on to the next statement. Come on, Pablo, tell me, give me a little bit more about this. What action did you take to get your way out of prison, bro?
Yeah. So, like I said, when I got to the pen, I was a little bit older, and I mean, I had achieved some relative success in life. Having been in the military, done the law enforcement thing. When I got to the pen, I already had my college degree, and so to me, surviving the pen was just a matter of trying to wrap my head around the fact that I had fallen so deep, man, and so unexpectedly into a world that I never really even I couldn't even imagine, couldn't even wrap my head around ever being a part of, and so when I first got to the penitentiary, I believe what most people with my kind of background would believe in a situation like that, and that is the first thing is that the appeal process is going to work, right? I spent the first 4 or 5 years of my penitentiary life, glued to the expectation that one day I was going to get a letter from the appeal lawyer saying that my appeal was successful and I was being released. I refused to believe that I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison. So then when that didn't work, then I got a job in the law library and I started to litigate. I became a jailhouse lawyer, and I thought that it went wherein the lawyers, the professionals had failed me, and that I was going to pick up the baton and run with it, and I was going to fight my way out of prison.
Yeah.
And then that proved to be a futile idea also and belief. And then before I knew it, there I was getting notices that I was getting ready to go to the board of parole hearing, and that there was a possibility that I could get a parole date, and so all my energy then turned to that. And Latif, has
Good
having been
evening.
a lifer yourself, that when that stage of your penitentiary life comes, man, you're consumed by that. Everything that you do every day that you get up is about what can you do to improve your chances of securing a parole date. So you go to groups, you do self-study, you write book reports, you do everything and anything that you can that you think is going to get you one of them little yellow chronos that are going to go in your file, that is
Yeah.
going to tell the authorities that you've been a good boy or a good person or a good man. I don't want to offend anybody, but and that when your time comes, that they'll be able to look at your file and say, okay, you came to the penitentiary and you rehabilitated yourself, and so we're going to give you a second chance. But
You
that turned out to be a lie. Go ahead, Mike.
you just said something, bro, that that was so profound that a lot of people might have missed. You said that they will release you because they would say to you, you rehabilitated yourself.
Yes, sir.
Not the programs, not the education department.
No.
You rehabilitated yourself. See, it took me. The question, if I'm not mistaken, you said what measures did we take to get out of prison?
Right.
Right. So
No. The question was, what actions did you take to make your way out of poverty? Not prison, poverty. See,
oh, okay.
Oh, I thought I had understood the same thing as Mike. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought the question was, what did you do to fight your way out of the pen?
The
Oh,
question,
it's
you
all good.
know, what it's good though, but the question is, what did you believe was your way out of poverty? And then the
Well,
second one was, what actions did you take to make your way out
Of prison.
I
Of
can answer
poverty.
that
of
with one
poverty?
word. I
Okay.
mean, education. That's what I believe. But what kind of education was I getting? I was getting educated to basically go work for somebody else. I
I
mean, and that's all that I was offered. I mean, no one was trying to teach me how to be an entrepreneur, or how to start my own business, or how to make my ideas grow, and so that I could be, my own boss, so to speak. So education for me was the answer. I mean, I know that you guys have touched
Yes,
upon the fact that you felt that under your circumstances and your conditions, selling drugs was probably the easiest way out or the quickest way out, and I can see that. But I was sold all along from early childhood on the concept that hard work, determination, and hitting the books hard, that was your way to trying to achieve some sort of success. And here I am, 60 something years old, man, and poverty is not too far around the corner from me, man. And I know that the day that I stop working, I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen to me. And I've shared this with you, Latif, in one-on-one conversations, that I'm not really sure how much longer I can keep this going. But it's always a fear and something that lurks in the back of my mind, that how much longer can I keep this going? So I'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say about that. I mean, maybe you guys felt that just selling drugs was the only way, and there were no other options. But I was never presented with that. So I'm here to learn and listen.
well, see, for me, the reason why I said that, because like I said, it depends on your environment, what you was exposed to. See, although we all, well on this panel at least, we came up out of poverty, struggling,
Right.
not where as children growing up struggling, but our parents, if we
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
lucky to have to,
Yeah.
if a whole lot of us, we just had one, you know
somebody.
so that was a struggle. So in order for you to survive, survival of the fittest, we all gonna do that,
Yeah.
regardless if you even know what you're doing.
The first rule of life, self-preservation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it was the things that I saw, how others was getting money. I wasn't going to work with no one. I wasn't seeing no one punching no clock, doing those kind of things. I was doing the things that I saw, pimps, players, hustle, all them kind of things. That was my environment, So when it came to trying to find out ways to get me some money, starting out stealing this, stealing that, getting away, knowing I can get away, I can say that I can get this. I gotta ask my mama for nothing. You know what I mean? I can get my own. It started out like that. You're gonna be doing things like that. Now, some people, even though they was in poverty, still their way may have been education, because they may have had a mother or father or both, and their thing was instilling education, right? You might have had some that wasn't thinking like that. We all, we all have different ways of coming up, but that poverty, that ain't no joke, man. You know what I mean? And everyone is going to try to get up out of that.
What can I say something?
Yes, you may.
What we don't realize is this: that in America, it's a system, right? And everybody's a part of that system. From the bottom to the top, it's a system, right? You either abide by the system or you go against the system, right? But either way we look at it, the system is going to profit off of whichever way we turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Either way you look at it, the system is going to profit off of which way we turn. So you get me. Started selling cocaine at 11 years old. First went to prison at 16 years old, right? The system created that, and the system created the other elements that will combat that, right? So you got all these things that's going on in this big old pot in America that's all created by America. Now, do I love this country? Lord knows I love it. I don't think it's nowhere better. I ain't been nowhere else to live, but I don't think it's nowhere else better. Why do so many people walk hundreds of miles, thousands of miles to get to here? It's a reason why, right? But what we don't know is the system plays us like puppets on a string.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get to the next question.
Okay. Well, before we get to the next question, someone had asked, did your way out lead you to prison? Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, everything I did.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, everything I did, unconsciously and consciously,
right,
led me to prison.
And not just for me. It didn't just lead me to prison. It also provided for me while I was in prison.
Yeah.
You know, my book is called Prison Kingpin, and it's a fictional story, a true fiction story, but it's called that for a reason. Because in prison, I continue doing the same things in prison that I did on the streets. I got sex from women in prison. I sold drugs in prison. I had cell phones in prison. I did everything in prison but escaped from prison.
Yeah.
I lived the most comfortable life you can live in prison. You couldn't have lived no more comfortable than I lived in prison. Only to get out to leave prison, doing what I'm doing in prison, the college of criminals, to get back to doing what I do in society. But this time I decided, I'll say, you know what? Instead of having drugs to sell, I'm going to sell this book.
Amen. Amen.
I said,
stuff, man.
I'm going to tell this story.
Yes.
So you know, what we're doing right here is such a powerful thing. And it's going to get, and God, the Spirit spoken to me today. Yeah, I smoke cigars. I'm drinking a little cognac. But, you know, I'm well rooted. You know what I mean? I'm well rooted. And, but the Spirit told me today that this right here is going to take all of us to a whole nother level. Not even just us three on the screen, but the people behind the scenes. Some of the people that's listening, if they pick these jewels up and run with them, they got some nice nuggets to put in their pockets.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, we got 10 minutes. So, you know,
10 minutes. Let's get to this next question. Let me say this here because now the next question was, let me go on with this next thing because it said, where did your way lead you? And it's still about prisons. And what I'm saying is that not only did my way lead me to prison, but it led me into a world of the unknown. I destroyed other people's lives and damaged lives of those I don't know and the lives that I do know. So in that, like when we're committing those kind of crimes, we don't know the ones that we didn't hurt, some of them. Let me just say for those that you didn't know who were those victims or those survivors. And when we're doing that, we never really seriously think about those we hurt that we do know. You know, and those that I hurt that I did know were my daughters. You know, and growing up in the penitentiary, the one thing that it crushed my heart was my daughter. You know, and how to relate to them, because I know me growing up, I grew up without the love of my father. My mother and father separated when I was a kid, So growing up, I never knew what it felt like to be loved by my father, my daddy. Didn't know what that felt. I used to walk around many days.
Man.
Is that my father? Could he be my dad? Because I didn't know who he was. So when I was in prison, I had made a promise to my children that they would never feel like that, ever feel like that. And when I got caught up, it crushed me because I grew up without brothers. And the last child that my children's mother, I ain't gonna no baby's mom, I'm gonna put some respect on this, my children's mother. Right. When I left, was in their life, I was wondering what was going on with us. So I read this book called Daddy's Little Girl. Man, that book was so powerful because it talks about little girls as they grow up and all the things they go to because of the lack of relationship they have with their father. Because the father is the first man that the little girl falls into. That's her hero. That's her example. But my quest to be able to relate to my daughters, to some kind of way to apologize to them from being away, because I knew how damaging and crippling it is to grow up without the love of a father. And I promised myself that I would never allow any of my children to feel like that. And then when I got locked up, that was the very thing that happened. And when I read that book, Daddy's Little Girl, man, I cried because the things I knew that my daughters was going to have to go through. Because at that point in time, when I read that book, I knew I was going to be gone for a long time. Right. And the only way I could have helped them through letters and explain to them, about, all the things they was going to, challenges they was going to go to, because a lot of women grew up, looking for daddy in other men, and that's another reason why the mother and father is so important in the household.
Somebody, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody asked, do you all have that in common? No father in the home.
Right. Yeah.
That is, and that's just not us three. That's a common.
Men. That's
a
common
thing in prison. Period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the men and women that you see in prison don't have the father in the home, and that's something that was created by the system as well. So, this is meat right here. What we putting on the table.
Yeah.
This is meat, and it's funny that you mentioned your daughters, because I have, my first two biological kids was girls. And in my distorted mind, I thought that, they would be all right because they was girls that, mama would look after them and all of that, right? But along the way, I felt that pain of not being in my daughter's life, right? I felt that exact pain that you're talking about.
Yes.
Right? It was many nights that the pillows caught my tears worrying about my daughters.
Yes.
Right? But then I had a son. My son was born my last incarceration. And it was something about having that boy that made me, a leopard don't change his stripes overnight. But in that process of me changing, it was for not just for my son alone, but for my daughters as well. But it was something about with me having that boy, because now you step into a whole nother realm of life. Now you step into, once your daughter get married and go off and take on the next person's name and all of that, yeah, that's your grandson, that's your blood, some of your blood, but your son,
yes, that's the bloodline.
That's the bloodline.
Yeah.
So it's this is such a bittersweet thing, and I'm surprised I ain't crying right now. But it's like, if we don't get back to the roots of the village, man. If we don't get back to the roots of it takes a village to raise a child, our situations in our urban communities is only going to get much more dire. Because right now, and me just coming home, I'm noticing this. Now, these right here is raising our kids. Cell phones.
Yes, absolutely.
And video games.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what's raising our children, these phones. So with that, they got access to the same stuff that the adult has access to. All they need to know is what to Google.
Right.
If they know what to Google, they can learn how to twerk. They can learn how to sell dope. They can learn how to perform oral sex.
Yeah, just Google it.
Just Google it. So now we're looking at a whole nother aspect of, we ain't seen the repercussions of it yet. My grandson is 6 years old. We ain't seen what him always in his phone or him always on a video game is gonna produce. We ain't seen that yet. So as fathers, it's our responsibility.
We got 3 minutes left, so we got to wrap it up. Go ahead, finish.
As fathers, somebody said, what is the solution? The solution is to go back and break the cycle of what the system put in place, and that was to take the man out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put the man back at the dinner table, because that's where home is made. Home is made when everybody comes from school, everybody comes from work, and that man is there to lead his flock. You have to put the man back in the home. And how do we do that? By doing this. By saying the shit that hurts a man when they hear it. By telling somebody, hey, yo, you a deadbeat ass dad, bro. You ain't taking care of your son, bro. Your son's out here in raggedy shoes. Your daughter's running up the street behind grown ass men. You know what I mean? This is the shit that we need to hear.
Okay, we got 1 more minute left, bro. I know. We're gonna get here. It's gonna get better. Trust me, it's gonna get better and better. And this is what we really want. Is to have this dialogue, because we're gonna start out one thing, man, but then it's so much that we're gonna be able to cover. But look forward for us to come back next week, God willing, at this time at 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock East Coast time. I'm not sure which one of us is going to be, but all of us are going to be on this panel. When we come back next week, we're going to get into even more going to grow. Hopefully, this whole thing is about healing and educating, so please comment, give us something that we can feedback on and discuss with you. As again, this is our first segment, so we're going to work out the bugs, but trust me, we got some fire, we got some education, we got some healing, that we can discuss. We can talk to the women, we can talk to mothers, we can talk to children, we can talk to anyone, about this right here, because it's about correcting. Our whole thing is about correcting. About preventing opposed to correcting. So we look forward to seeing you again next week, God willing, at 5 o'clock West Coast time, 8 o'clock East Coast time for Survivor. And we'll let you know what the topic would be. And thank you so very, very much. Mike, Pablo, can you got a few seconds to say something before we go off?
Man, I just want to say this has been great, man. I love spending time with you, brothers. It's been educational, man. I learned a lot, man. And I at the end of the day, I just feel like we have a lot more in common than we don't. So, I look forward to next week, and let's keep it going, man. God bless. You guys take care.
All right, Mike.
I echo that, salute.
All right. So until next week, everyone, have the remainder of a great evening. We look forward. We thank you for all those there tune in. We look forward for you to come back next week, share with your friends. You find that this content is something that intrigues you, that you would like to come back again next week. Please join us. Thank you. Peace.
Don't forget to get a copy of this,
Oh, yeah.
man. In
Don't
Pursuit of
forget to get a
Happiness.
copy of Survive.
Amazon. In Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
Amazon.com.
Yeah. Amazon.com, Hulu.com, Master Media. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right on, brother. Hey,
Peace.
great job, Latif. Great job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you did a great job.